Hi everyone, thanks for joining us tonight for this Royal College of Physicians of Ireland Professional Diploma in Dermatology information webinar. With this programme, you can answer and ask questions, and we do encourage it. I'm one of the education advisors here, along with one of my colleagues, Michaela, so please do ask any questions using the questions and chat function. Just to give you a quick brief of the running order for today, we have Mr. Dermot Bratnock. He's the iheed Director of Academic Affairs, and he's going to give you a detailed overview of the online learning environment, the curriculum, the entry requirements, time commitments, tuition fees, and accreditation. So if you have any questions about those, please do by all means put them in, but they will be addressed during the webinar. We also have Dr. Michelle Murphy as well, who is a consultant dermatologist, and Dermot is going to have a quick one-to-one with her and chat about the course that we have. So without further delay, I'm going to hand you over to Dermot.
Brilliant. Thanks a million, Kevin. And Michelle, lovely to have you on the line as well this evening. Michelle, do you want to introduce yourself first to the group that we have here?
Good evening. My name is Dr. Michelle Murphy. I'm a dermatologist in Cork in the south of Ireland. I'm also the senior lecturer in medical education for University College Cork, and I previously have been National Specialty Director for Dermatology for 6 years in Ireland.
Thanks a million, Michelle. And I am the Director of Academic Affairs with iheed, and we run the programme in partnership with the Royal College of Physicians. Effectively, my role is all about the kind of programme overview and quality assurance and running of the programme. What we're hoping to do tonight is give you a sense of what the programme is about, what it will cover, what the time commitment to delivery, and effectively give you all the information that you'll need to choose, is this the right program for you? Michelle, if I bring up to start with the kind of the program objectives, would you highlight to the group, I suppose, why did we design this program? What are we trying to achieve at the end of it, and what might differentiate it from other programs when we piece this together?
I suppose what we looked at doing here was developing a program that would be delivered exclusively online, but that would have the quality that we would like to see in it, so that the person who does the course, that when they come across a patient with a skin condition, that they had I suppose, a structure to look at the patient and a framework for which to try and make a diagnosis, and then the information to make a diagnosis and to carry the treatment to a certain level. So I think that's what we were looking at. We tried to make it as interesting as possible and also as relevant to day-to-day patient presentations. And we're very conscious of the fact that patients don't present as eczema or as psoriasis. They present as, I've got an itchy scaly rash on my face, and we try to merge that the actual, what the presentation looks like, and then how you tease it out and diagnose it, and that's what we try to impart in this program.
Yeah, and I brought up there the types of topics that are covered to make exactly that point. You cover off the individual areas, but then it brings it together in simulations as to, well, what do you do with a patient that turns up with red legs, with a red face? And I think some of the, and I'll demonstrate some of the content later on in the talk, but I think some of the interactive simulations in the program are really exceptional at drawing out the clinical decision making within that. And Michelle, in terms of audience that the program has been designed for, I'll stop share here. In terms of audience that it's been designed for, we on the program board we have a mixture of professions. Which professions do you think this is especially relevant to?
Well, I suppose we thought about that. I think probably general practice would still be the one that it probably hits it hits best, I think. But I think anyone working in a community setting, it will be very good for. What we've tried to do is focus on the common and then the less common conditions, and how you diagnose them, and then once you can diagnose them, treating them is somewhat easier. But in dermatology, it's all about diagnosing. and that's what we've tried to focus on, both with like interactive kind of games almost, but also very high quality photographs that are clearly illustrated. And I think that's very important. Like, I think it would be very useful for people who want to be AMPs, or people who want to be or pharmacists who see patients with rashes and want a better handle on diagnosing them. So I think that's what it is. We also have some dermatology trainees who express interest in doing it, but it really is more for the kind of, you know, the person that sees the rash first off, really, I think, is how we're trying to position it.
And do you think, you know, in that spirit, do you think in terms of dermatology more can be managed within the community?
Oh, I think so. Like a lot of dermatology is, the management is not that difficult, it's the diagnosis that's difficult. So I think that's where we focus a lot on diagnosis and how do you tell one thing from another and what are the key clinical signs to see. Because once you have the diagnosis, you know, a lot of the treatments can be provided outside of specialised care.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. And the thread of kind of giving someone the, you know, the background to a particular to a particular case, and then going through, well, what investigations, what diagnosis, and ultimately then, you know, what management plan will this lead to. But I suppose if you, Michelle, if I was looking at this course and I didn't have a lot of experience with dermatology beyond what I might have covered in my undergrad, you know, would I need much experience to come on, or will it give me kind of basics and work up?
I think we've tried to put the basics in there and put them in kind of a fairly interesting way, so that if you don't have, you know, much dermatology experience, it's fine, you'll be brought along with it. And if you do have some, it won't be boring. So that's what we try to do, make it very clinically focused, because I suppose patients aren't boring. So if the more clinically focused you make it, the easier it is to bring people with different levels of knowledge along with you. And I think a lot of the graphics and the kind of reading material is designed to hit various different levels depending on your degree of experience or expertise. So I think you'd be very kind of comfortable going on this without any great depth of dermatology knowledge.
Yeah, and I think what you're speaking to there, and that kind of that very much kind of the curriculum differentiates as it goes through the cases and gets more complex as it moves on. And I suppose the other piece then, so, you know, we've got a program that's designed to be online, it's designed to be interprofessional. This is also a very international program. I mean, there's learners from, I think, over 30 countries on it at the moment. How do we manage the kind of some of the issues that you get in dermatology with a very international patient profile?
Well, I suppose we just try to represent all skin types, particularly in photographs, because I think that's the most important thing. So we very much focus on that. We would have rashes in various different skin types illustrated, and emphasize on which ethnic groups get what type of rash, and try to make it truly international. I think this isn't actually even as important because people who you know are international audience, but no matter where you live now, you're going to have an international patient population due to the nature of world travel. So I think it's relevant for everybody.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's, you know, it's any practice, you know, you're not going to have a homogenous group of, you know, one ethnicity, one skin type in your patient profile. And Michelle, I've brought up some the kind of the topics again in terms of kind of the sequencing and development of the topics across the program. I mean, you mentioned earlier the kind of the cardinal or the clinical presentations that we'll see, a bit of red face and red legs. Do you want to talk through some of the other ones as the program moves on in terms of the red all over patient or genital dermatology, etc.?
Well, I think some of the highlights of this program are we try to focus on areas of dermatology that actually are quite common but often get left out of undergraduate curriculums or even the postgraduate curriculums, and these would very much be with the oral dermatology. Genital dermatology would I have an interest in myself, and that's something that, you know, presents a lot, has a huge morbidity associated with it, but it's very treatable in primary care, provided you know what you're looking for and looking at. So I think that's something we try to emphasise quite a lot, and have given that area of dermatology a lot of emphasis. The other area is hair and pigment, and like a lot of the advances in dermatology in the last 5 years have been in the treatment of hair disorders. I was at the American Academy meeting there in Boston 2 months ago, and I think half the meeting was about advances in treatment of hair disorders. So I think that's very important to be, educating as to where how you diagnose these conditions and the treatments that are there available for them now. And I suppose the other thing is, I suppose all anybody who's a doctor, pharmacist, or a nurse in practice, people often ask you about cosmetic dermatology, and it's something good to know about and know what's true and what's not, and you can give patients a lot of advice on that area, and it's something that you invariably get asked, so it's good to know about it.
I was going to touch on that as to, the I suppose the level that we go into in the program, and I think you've described it perfectly, where it is that it is that knowledge of what's out there, knowledge of what's available and what to do and what's contemporary, but obviously it's the program's focus is not in a large way on cosmetic dermatology. It's the more clinical side of it, I think it's fair to say.
Oh, absolutely. But I suppose there are things, it's where this cosmesis equal aging, or so there are a lot of very simple things advice you can give to patients that they're very grateful for, and that can be sorted quite easily. So I think it's important to know about it. It's not by far not the focus of this curriculum, but it's important to have it in there because it is something people ask about and something that you need to know about.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Michelle, I suppose final question in terms of what do you see as the benefit of people doing a very interprofessional program where, as you say, we'll have doctors, we'll have nurses, we'll have pharmacists, and within the physician population, we'll have general practice, we'll have people at the start of specialist training, we have, emergency room doctors quite often on the RCPI programs. What do you think the benefit of that interprofessional learning is in this context?
Well, I suppose that there are two main areas where I would think that it adds to the program. I suppose the first one is that it makes us as educators up our game, because you have to think about, what can you offer people at various stages of experience and interest, and this kind of graduated learning thing has to be kind of baked into every one of the lectures and of the learning outcomes, and that actually made us think more about how we did it, and made us think how we make it interesting as well. The other part of it, I suppose, it's we have a lot of cross-fertilization amongst our participants, and I think that will make it more interesting for people who are undergoing the program. The questions that people in other disciplines will ask will probably be more may add another flavour to what you're learning from your own discipline.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you say earlier, it's about where does the case present, and that that may often not be where it ultimately ends up being treated, but it's really important that we have that communication as to, well, what happens if someone walks into a pharmacy with something, or the practice nurse in a primary care practice, etc. So no, I think hugely relevant. Michelle, I could stay here chatting all night, but I'm really conscious of time. So I'm going to go into the actual kind of structured overview presentation now and give the kind of the program logistics and everything like that. So I suppose unless there's anything else that you want to add, I just thank you hugely for your time this evening.
No, that's great. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Michelle. And yeah, I'm sure you'll look forward to seeing lots of the people here on the program. So what I'm going to do for the second half of this evening is, as I say, give you a kind of overview of the program itself and the logistics and the program management end of it. And one of the first things you'll notice about the program is it's got iheed alongside the Royal College of Physicians, and the college themselves need very little introduction. iheed probably need a little more. So iheed are an Irish company, part of the Cambridge Education Group in the UK. We were founded in 2013 by an Irish general practitioner. And really what we are doing with this partnership with the College of Physicians is bringing our expertise in online medical education and enabling the college to bring their qualifications to a global audience. So we've worked around the globe with, particularly in the Middle East and Asia, as well as Europe, with ministries of health and health regulators, primarily to develop capacity in areas like family medicine, but also to develop specialist qualifications. And on the online platform that is at the heart of this program, we've had over 400,000 course completions since our inception. So there's an awful lot of expertise and learning there in how people need to be educated online, what works well. And you know, we've been doing and designing online programs long before COVID came along to enforce them. And I think one of the key things that, it was one of the first things that Michelle said was, you know, this program is designed to be online from the outset. And that, I think there is a marked difference between a program that's been adapted to be online and something where in its inception we said will be fully online, will be interprofessional, and will be international. And that very much shapes everything about the program. The College of Physicians, you know, one of the most recognizable institutions in medicine globally, founded in 1654. The Institute of Medicine, where this program ultimately sits, it's actually Ireland's newest training body. The Institute of Medicine was established in 2020, and it has oversight of the practice of 18 clinical medicine specialties in Ireland, including dermatology. So, you know, it's sitting, this program is sitting at the heart of the Royal College, and obviously they have their specialist training in dermatology as well. And I suppose what is important is, you know, when you're looking at a program like this, is to recognize the path. So, you know, if someone's going to become a consultant dermatologist like Dr. Michelle, you know, that is at least 3 years of basic training, whether you do this in the Irish system, the UK system, the Canadian system, etc. You know, you've got an initial period of core or basic specialist training, and then you've got a period of higher specialist training, and typically about an 8-year journey. So what we wanted to develop was a very short, in comparison, qualification aimed, as we said, you know, doctors working in primary care, nurses and pharmacists that are dealing with dermatological issues. If people are at the outset of basic specialist training, this program will be ideal to give them that foundation. And then we get a wide range of other doctors coming to study on the program, such as pediatricians, emergency medicine, that want to get, you know, a greater level of insight into dermatology. So the actual qualification that you get from the College of Physicians, this will be a professional diploma in dermatology is the award. And first and foremost, it's an academic qualification. It does not have a clinical practice component, and that's kind of important to say at the outset. The program design is equivalent to 30 ECTS or 60 UK credits, but effectively that positions it at the postgraduate certificate level. It is currently undergoing recognition through QQI, which is the higher education authority in Ireland, to gain formal postgraduate award. But at the moment, the qualification that you'll get will be under the College of Physicians Royal Charter, and that will be a professional diploma in dermatology. Once QQI validation of the program comes in, then people in Ireland will actually get a postgraduate award with that credit attachment that can be used, you know, in against any other similar programs in Europe, etc. So that academic standing is really important. The College of Physicians qualifications are, you know, they are recognised globally. The CME CPD you'll get will be 60 hours in terms of what the Royal College will give for the program. Now, depending on where somebody is, some regulators will grant standardized amounts for completing a postgraduate award. So if you're in Qatar or if you're in Dubai, you'll get 36 hours. Ironically, if you are an hour and a half down the road in Abu Dhabi, you'll get 96 hours. So that amount can vary an awful lot depending on the jurisdiction that you're in. But for the vast majority of people, this will take care of your CPD requirements for the year. And as I said, it's an academic award. It's really important that people understand it does obviously, you know, an 8-month program will not confer specialist status. So Michelle and I have talked about, you know, the program objectives, and really it is looking at being able to make a diagnosis, being able to take a focused dermatological history, being able to, you know, look at clinical features, have a very systematic approach to diagnosis, and be able to describe to a patient and to other clinicians the features of a particular case. And, you know, that solving of diagnostic problems and taking responsibility for diagnostic and management decisions, that's all at the heart of it. And that then feeds into how we structure the content on the program. So there's 26 weeks of content on the program. It's divided into blocks, but effectively there's a discrete topic every week, and we saw that on the slide previously in terms of, you know, we will cover you know, we'll cover psoriasis one week, we'll cover oral dermatology another week. So having a discrete topic each week really allows you to focus on one area and go into depth in one area, and it provides a predictability to your timetable, that you know on week 1 exactly what you're going to be covering on week 18. And, you know, we have what we call common themes that are running throughout each block. So we've got communication skills, diagnostic skills, and prescribing skills, and those themes are threaded throughout everything that you do on the program. How we structure it then in terms of delivery. So there's a pattern. So each week has its own topic, and there's a pattern to each week. So we'll have an induction week at the outset of the program, and that will give you everything that you need in terms of familiarity with the program. It'll show you the online platform. It will show you what supports are available, who your tutors are, what, you know, go through everything that you'll need to feel comfortable before you start into week 1. And then each week then, which has a topic, follows a similar pattern, where we'll start off with a case discussion. So we'll give you a clinical case presentation, and that will be related to the topic for that week. You engage with that topic at your own time and pace during the week, and then you bring yourself through the e-learning content that is related to that week as well. So I'm just going to flip over and show you what the actual platform looks like. So this is, you know, this is the online platform. It's really easy to navigate. So, you know, the first block is 4 weeks long. The second block is, I think, 5 weeks long, and we can go into any of these and see what the content looks like. So we'll start off with the overview, and, you know, highly visual content, highly interactive content. You know, as you would imagine in dermatology, very visual, lots of explanations. everything is linked to the learning outcomes, which is linked back to the curriculum. And then we get into, again, as you'd imagine, there's lots of video content throughout. This is all brand new e-learning. It's written specifically for this program and authored by an amazing team of content experts. And we then, we get into clinical cases really quickly. So, you get the background, but then you learn through case presentations. There's a full library available to you. There's lots of supplementary reading, but we're straight into clinical cases, and this is going to give you the background, current medications, etc., and it'll then bring you through decision making as to what should we be looking for in this particular case. There's lots of interactivities. It'll give you feedback when you get things right, when you get things wrong, suggestions as to key questions that you're seeing here. So, the learning environment that you're bringing yourself through every week is a really, really visual, interesting, stimulating way. And then the piece that Michelle referred to earlier on doing this through simulation. So we've developed, at the end of each block, we developed these clinical simulations. So this presents, this first one presents Dave, 62-year-old man, presenting with a red face, and you get all of his background, you get his BMI. So you're into an actual simulation here where you're playing the role of a doctor. You're making choices. You get responses. There's no right or wrong way to do this. The first time you go through it, you don't get any guidance, and you may make good and bad choices. As you go through this, then as it gets deeper and deeper into the simulation, you start to make decisions, and each of those decisions and questions that you ask have a consequence, and the questions are open-ended. You type them in. It's very individualized. When you get to the end of simulation, you then go back and you get feedback on it, and you get guidance when you do it, when you go through it the next time. So it really is, it really is a very lifelike, engaging way to go through the content. If you imagine in a given week, you've got a case discussion, you bring yourself through this online content, which is a really, really interesting way to learn. And then at the end of the week, you've got a live tutorial. In Europe and kind of as far as Eastern Mediterranean, that will be generally on a Wednesday or a Thursday evening. And that takes in Europe, Africa, and as far as Eastern Mediterranean, the groups in the Middle East tends to be a Friday morning for everyone but UAE because of their slightly different weekend. And then UAE and Asia Pacific have their tutorial on a Friday evening. So, the time zones are structured such that the tutorial attendance comes towards the end of the topic, so you can kind of bring it to life, and it's at a time that suits the vast majority of people. So it's very easy to engage with the program, and all of this has been taught out that it's an online program, and the structure has been designed such that it suits people that are full-time professionals, full-time clinicians, part-time learners, and the vast majority of our learner population tend to have small families as well, just the point in career that they tend to be at. So it needs to be manageable within that. And then there's continuous assessment as we go through the program, and I'll speak about the assessment in a couple of minutes. But the content really is, I think one of the beauties of having an online learning environment like this is I can look at something on my mobile or my iPad if I have 15 minutes in between clinic, and I can then pick it up on my laptop when I go home, and it remembers exactly where I am. The focus, and I think one of the unique aspects about this program is, A, the depth it goes into, but B, the focus on patient case presentation and management is really, really key. And when it was designed, that was at the heart of it, to make that fully accessible. In terms of the assessment that comes, so it's 80% exams, and you take all of these online, and you've got pretty generous windows in which to take the exams. So 80% is a series of exams throughout the program, and then 20% is communication skills assessments. And they work really, really well. The focus of this being an international program, what we're not doing is asking you to write, long essays or anything like that. The exams are single best answer. They are going to feel very, very similar to the sorts of patient cases that we're giving you on a weekly basis in your discussion forum. It'll be, here's a presentation, what's the next step in investigation, in diagnosis, in management, in referral, etc. And the assessments are easily spread throughout the program. So really, really kind of learner-centric assessment, and focused on, again, the patient being at the heart of all of this. So in terms of what this feels like to study, so the first thing is, you're in small groups. So whenever we run the programs, you'll be in a group of 25, and within that group of 25, you'll have a range of professions, you'll have a range of countries, and that international interprofessional mix will be really, really enjoyable to be part of. The group size, then you get to know your group really well, and we might take on 4 groups for an intake, but you'll only ever, you'll be part of your group of 25. So that small group teaching is really, really important. The modular blocks and the pace of the program, and the flexible nature of it, where the only time in a week that you need to be available at a given time is that one live tutorial, and it's recorded, it's available for you to watch afterwards, but most people manage to attend live, which is where they'll get the most value. You're looking at a commitment, a light week might be, if you spend an hour or so looking at the content, an hour or so contributing to your discussion forum, and an hour or so at your tutorial. A light week might be 3 to 3.5 hours. An average week, by the time you go over stuff a couple of times or do some of the supplementary reading, you're looking at 4 or 5 hours a week in terms of a personal commitment. And as I say, the only time you need to be available is that 1 hour for your tutorial, and you get to choose, which tutorial time is going to suit you best when you apply. The support that underpins the program is, again, as an online program, it's really important that there's strong supports in place, that you feel that you're not on some distance learning correspondence course or something like that, that you'll meet your tutors every single week. You'll meet someone from the program management team every single week. There's a huge amount of personal support given to people on the program. Michelle and Dr. Cathal O'Connor, as the program leads, tremendously supportive. You've got the tutor network that they're all consultant dermatologists. They've all got a huge amount of experience, again, in dermatology, but also in education, and again, that's extremely important. But that support network is that extends out. Then you've got the program management team, there's a technical support team, which is kind of underutilized because the platform just works, but it's really important that as you go through the program, you're fully supported in doing so. So on to some of the more practical elements, and I should have said, if we haven't already, please keep adding the questions into the chat. I'll get to all of them. If I haven't answered them within this, I'll get to all of them at the end. But so in terms of eligibility criteria, very straightforward. So it's open to registered doctors, nurses, and pharmacists. You do need, and that is what we'll ask you for effectively, is your undergraduate degree in whichever discipline you're coming from. You do need to be able to complete the program through English, but as I said, there's not long essays in this. And crucially, nobody is traveling to Ireland to study. So we don't need an IELTS or similar English proficiency exam. Throughout the application process, your personal statement, the conversation that you'll have with an education advisor, that will that will give us comfort as to your level of English proficiency. So the application process is really straightforward. We look for your university certificate, we look for your ID, and we look for that personal statement. You upload it all online. You don't have to upload it all at once. You can do it incrementally, but the key is that by the time the program is filling, that you've given us all of the documents that you need. Again, there's an admissions team that'll guide you through all of that process. In terms of fees then, so the program fee is €3,600, and again, in looking at the program duration and coverage and intensity, that is a very reasonable price for a program that is 30 ECTS long. To book your place on the program, it's a €600 deposit, which then leaves a balance of €3,000. And you've got a choice then of either paying that in full, splitting it in half, or paying it over 6 months of €500 a month. So hopefully that gives flexibility as to how people want to pay for the program. But I suppose what is important in terms of linking the application that you're going to do to the program fee, the places are offered on a first come first served basis to the people effectively who apply and pay their deposit. The program was oversubscribed. The last time we ran it, we fully expect it to be oversubscribed as well. It is, in terms of interest level, it is one of the strongest programs that we have with RCPI. And what that student experience feels like, and how this suite of programs has rolled out. So there's over 1,000 learners, well over 1,000 learners at this stage, from 41 countries. I think the program design is key, that it's designed to be online, and all of the supports and systems and structures that are in place, 92% student engagement, 98% completion rate on RCPI programs to date. Of that, I think it's about 1,400 learners. And when we ask, and we regularly survey the groups, when we ask for feedback on program support, on learning experience, and all of those things, it is embarrassingly positive how much people enjoy the program. So it's something we're very proud of, but as a prospective learner, having this volume of learners having gone through the programs with iheed and RCPI, it should give an element of comfort as to what you're signing up for. So the program itself then, to summarize, we have got a program that is 26 weeks long, that has, it's open to doctors, nurses, pharmacists. The application process is really, really straightforward. I think if I go back to the coverage, the types of areas that we're covering in the program are going to be really, really relevant to what you're seeing clinically. The experience that people have is extraordinarily positive. The fee, we hope, is reasonable to most people. It's certainly for the quality of the program, for the delivery model, for the duration and the credit score that you get from it. We think it represents excellent value for money. As I've said, the last intake oversubscribed. Fully expect this one to oversubscribe as well. The places will be offered on a first come first served basis. So that is particularly the deposit payment, and then the application to secure your space. I suppose I'll stop screen sharing for a few minutes. I think what's always hard to get across in this type of webinar is the enjoyment part of it. When you're in a group of 25 and you're with a tutor, throughout your program, that you develop a relationship with them, with your peers, with your tutor. That support network is really strong, but it means it provides a rhythm and a regularity to how you're studying, and that all of that makes the experience really, really enjoyable. So if I go to questions on the chat, and there's lots of questions in, so there's a couple on there's a couple. Hi, Kevin. There's a couple on eligibility and relevance to different professions. So a dental hygiene therapist, a histopathologist, etc. And what I'd suggest is that we'll reach out to you directly and have a conversation directly with you. Are there annual subscription or revalidation requirements? There's not. There's not. This program effectively gives you a really comprehensive overview of dermatology. It will cover kind of novel therapeutics really well, but because it's not, because it doesn't have a clinical component, you don't need to do a revalidation after you complete it. Somebody working as a nurse practitioner in aesthetics medicine, would this assist to advance their practice? Absolutely. What I would stress is within your current scope of clinical practice. It won't give you an increased scope of clinical practice, but it will give you an absolutely huge degree of, I suppose, confidence and comfort around areas that you'll be seeing. Let me see. Dermatology is an area of special interest I wish to upgrade. Yep, absolutely. The lectures are recorded. I think that's a really important point. Every part of the program is recorded, is available for you to watch back afterwards. So within a couple of hours of the tutorial taking place, the recording of it is online. But I go back to the I go back to the platform, and I think what is really important is that all of your main content that you'll study on the program is contained within the platform. So everything you need to get the degree of comfort in what you're doing, but B, to pass the assessment, everything will be contained within the platform, full library access, etc. So at all times on the program, you've got access to, I suppose, the full suite of materials that you need, both professionally and to succeed. Someone's asking, will the program be recognized in Trinidad and Tobago? We have an inordinately large amount of graduates on, particularly our pediatrics program, from Trinidad and Tobago with the College of Physicians. Absolutely. I think the program is awarded and accredited by the Royal College under their Royal Charter, and they've been around since 1654. Those qualifications are accepted globally. So, absolutely, it's recognized in Trinidad and Tobago. I think particularly when it goes through, and I spoke about that higher education piece in Ireland, when it gets formally onto the national framework in Ireland, that gives it a different level of accreditation again. But absolutely, it's accepted globally, and the RCPI qualifications have been accepted globally for literally hundreds of years. Can I repeat the time of the program for people based in Ireland? Yeah, so if you're in Ireland, there's usually 2 or 3 European groups, and their tutorial times are usually Wednesday or Thursday evenings. Around this time, it's the kind of, they start between 7 and 8 p.m. 7:30, 7 is the usual start time. And I think one of the other things that happens reasonably frequently is somebody starts the program and then their shift pattern changes, or occasionally they'll move country and whatever, and they just simply identify, actually the Friday 7 a.m. tutorial slot is going to suit me better now. I'll jump into that group, and then everything is recorded. So Yeah, and someone is asking, do we need to have GMC registration to enter the diploma? No, you absolutely don't need GMC registration. You need to be a qualified doctor, nurse, or pharmacist. That's the criteria, and obviously GMC registration wouldn't apply to a whole swathes of people there. So it's just doctor, nurse, or pharmacist is what we're looking for. So if you're a doctor, we'll ask you for your MD or your MBBS, etc. So can you pay in pounds? No, the fee is in euro. Obviously, we'll do a translation, and I think anything on fees, the education advisors, Kevin and his team will gladly talk to people individually about the fees, the payment options, etc. So yeah, and someone's asking about the difference between the professional certificate and the professional diploma. So the program was initially launched as a 6-month professional certificate. It's now been upgraded to, it's going to be between an 8 and 9-month professional diploma, and hence the name difference between them. And that professional diploma is the equivalent of 30 ECTS, which is the standard European credit transfer system for education. So that kind of explains the naming convention difference between the last intake and this intake. If you're a doctor, do you need to be working at the moment? No, you don't particularly need to be working. Obviously, if you're seeing patients with skin issues, it'll help contextualize the program for you. But you know what we look for is that you've got the qualification itself. In terms of application, Kevin is going to put the application link into the chat so that everybody has it, and it will be sent to you with the recording after this. Do you require to have a license after completion? Great question, and I think really, really important that it's an academic qualification. It's not a clinical qualification. So you maintain the current scope of practice that you have, albeit you've got a significantly enhanced level of confidence and understanding of dermatology. How many spaces do we have available for enrollment? So as I said, we're planning for 3 European groups, Europe being a broad term for Europe, Africa, and kind of Eastern Mediterranean. We're planning for 3 groups there, a Middle East group and a global group. And once they fill, then the program is filled. Will the course be recommended for those with an interest in pursuing dermatology? Absolutely. So one of the reasons that this suite of programs with the College of Physicians exists is that for people that are about to undertake or in year 1 of basic specialist training, it's written exactly with that profile in mind. So it's relevant. It's very relevant to general practice and community-based care. But for someone starting out a specialism in dermatology, absolutely. Let me see what else. What haven't I answered? It's brilliant to see so many questions. Final medical student graduating in September, can I apply in August? I would say to apply and state that on your application. What they will look for is confirmation from your university that effectively you'll be finished within a couple of weeks of finishing of starting the program. Recognised in South Africa, yes, we have lots and lots of graduates on the RCPI programs in South Africa, absolutely. Can we practice with this in Ireland? Again, you would need to be already licensed to practice in Ireland. Is there an advanced course following the professional diploma? This may go on to a more advanced program. It's certainly our aspiration to do that, but it's not available yet. How do we divide the groups? Is it based on people's location? It is. But we will very much ask you what tutorial time suits you. We've designed the tutorial times such that we know Wednesday and Thursday evenings around 7:30, 7 o'clock. That tends to suit people in Europe, Africa, and Eastern Mediterranean. We know that if you're in the Gulf region, a 7 a.m. Irish time Friday morning tutorial works really well. If you're in UAE, where they've recently changed their working week, you'll need a Friday evening tutorial. So there's a logic to it, but the choice is always asked on application. So when are we starting? It is starting in August, and we'll send the full timetable to people with the information after the session has finished this evening. So again, yeah, there's a few dentists that are interested. So we'll get in touch directly. It's not strictly in the entry criteria, but obviously, if there's a clinical interest and it's relevant, we're very happy to look at it. So Kevin, I think I have answered the vast majority of a huge amount of questions there. And apologies if I've missed any, but I think what is key is that the education advisor team are going to be reaching out to everyone after the webinar, and they'll be really happy to pick up any questions. So someone's saying switching groups. Yeah, absolutely, you can switch groups. Can we send the links? Yeah, we'll send all the links to everything. Are you able to go on to higher study? If you end up getting the postgraduate certificate, then that would enable further study. And as I said, we are minded to have further qualifications, but they're not there yet. So yeah, Kevin, I think I've hit most of them at this stage. I'm conscious we're coming up on time. So I suppose to reiterate, if people are interested, if you think this is the right program for you, the application process is the three. Actually, I'll pop this back up on screen. The application process is the sorry, wrong screen. The application process is your university certificate, your formal ID, and I think it's a 400 or 500 word personal statement on effectively your background, why you want to undertake the program. And the spaces are given on a first come, first served basis. And even though it's an online program with multiple groups, we limit the size of each of those groups, so it's not that there's a never-ending supply of places. That relationship you have with your tutor, the relationship you have with your peers, is really, really important. So we keep that group size and ratios maintained at all times. So that's effectively that. I hope has given you an overview of everything you need to make a decision on the program. But the education advisor team will be reaching out to you after the session. I'd like to thank Dr. Michelle for her input earlier, and Kevin for manning the webinar as well. And it will be fantastic to see lots of you on the program in the future. So thank you all so much for your time this evening.
Absolutely. Thanks very much for showing up.